Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio.
Welcome to Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio. This is your host, Lauren Smith, here with Lori Hood. It's March 4th, 2018, and we are back on air tonight after having some technical difficulties last week. How you doing, Lori?
I'm doing fine, Lauren. How are you?
That was the weirdest intro I've ever done in my life.
That's okay. It was pretty good. It was. You know, after last week, it just kind of throws you off your game. I mean, she was able to get on the air, but me and the guest were not. And we had already scheduled in advance, so we couldn't bring him back this night and everything. But we do have a fantastic guest, which we're going to get to in a moment. But, yeah, that was just the first time ever Blog Talk has ever done this, where they had all circuits were busy, and nobody could call in. Nobody. None of the shows were on the air that night at that particular time. So, yeah, that was crazy. But we're getting. I was going to say, is there anything going on with you? Have you heard any Bigfoot news or anything like that?
Nope. Nothing Bigfooty here that I know of.
Yeah.
I don't think I've left the house all weekend, honestly. So, and I haven't seen anything on the interwebs. What about you?
Really, nothing much going on here. Planning on doing. Of course, we're planning a trip. You know, a expedition or whatever you want to call it. We've got a girl going. It's all girls, and one of the girls that's going with us has never even watched a scary movie. I'm hoping she does okay.
You know, but that might actually be in her favor if you think about it, because you can freak yourself out because you know what normally happens to people when they go in the woods and it's dark and scary and they get eaten by the monster. But if you've never seen a scary movie, you don't know, and therefore you're not going to be as freaked out, maybe.
Well, what she says, can you promise I won't get murdered or anything? Oh, my God. I was like, well, no, I can't make that promise, but I don't think so. But, you know, yeah, it shall be interesting. It shall be interesting. And I told her there's only one thing you need to know. That when we say, shh, did you hear that? Be quiet, because we're listening, you know. Yes. But other than that, you know, yeah, I think she'll have a great time. But that is going to be interesting. I've been really encouraging her to come. I think she'll enjoy herself tremendously and find it really interesting.
Is this someone you work with?
She's kept my secret. Actually, it's somebody I go to church with. And she's like the only person in my church that knows I chase Bigfoot. And she just kept my secret this whole time. And I'm thinking, you know, she deserves a little outing out there in the thick of it. You know, I don't know.
She deserves a treat. You're going to scare the pee out of her, and she deserves a treat. She's been a good friend.
Yes. But, you know, there's some people you want to know. You know, the guest and I were talking about this, you know, well, we're going to bring him on here in a minute. But, you know, there's some people that you don't mind sharing with, but some people you just don't, because you'll never hear the end of it.
Or you just don't even want to go there.
Yes, it's like don't cast pearl before swine. You know, they're not going to believe you, no matter how convincing you are. Not even if you had a Bigfoot scar on your back to show them. I mean, it was, nothing would convince them. So, Yeah, you kind of pick and choose your battles when it comes to who you tell. When I told her, she was very interested about it, but she is a skeptic, so this should be really interesting. And so we'll be able to share. I'll be coming back and I'll be telling y'all all about it. So
I look forward to hearing how it went for sure.
Definitely. We have a really great guest on tonight. He's from Alabama, so I love that he has the southern accent so I don't stand out so bad. And also, he loves the outdoors. Yes, he's big into hunting and fishing, and growing up, he spent a lot of times out in the woods and wading in the creeks and stuff. So he never believed in Bigfoot. You know, he wasn't one of those that believed from the time he was 7, like a lot of them that we've had on this show. But he was kind of like me, you know. He was blissfully ignorant for many, many years until he had an encounter. So let's bring Scott on. And how about you, Scott Randolph? Come on.
Hello. Thank you for having me on the show tonight.
What?
Thank you for having me on the show tonight.
You know what? That is our privilege. I mean, our honor and privilege to have you on. Man, I think I could have had my foot in my mouth tonight.
I think we're all a little
excited. Yes, it's been a day. But thank you for coming on from the wonderful state of Alabama. And were you born and raised in Alabama?
Yeah, I was born I was born actually in Mississippi just because the local hospital here wasn't equipped to do it. But I was raised in Winfield, Alabama, my whole life. That's where my family are, and still are today. And like I said, it's just a little small town. I don't know of anything big that's happened as far as, you know, a Bigfoot sighting. Nothing that interesting happens around here, but I'm going to break the story tonight, and people can look for themselves, and if they're brave enough, you know, to go out and try to find the evidence if they want to. But
right.
After what I've seen, I hadn't been back to that area in the woods at night. Don't know that I will.
I understand. So you've always been outdoors, though, hunting, fishing, love the wildlife, and you've never had a fear of the woods. Is that correct?
Nothing. No, there's nothing in the woods that would have ever scared me at all. I walked in 15 minutes before the show went on there from fishing. I've been fishing all day. I was close to the area where I had the sighting. I mean, not far at all. I actually had to go up Highway 13 to get to the area I was fishing in today. But I try to fish every day that it's possible, even if it's raining. When it's hunting season, you know, I enjoy hunting, so that's what I'm doing every day. But I've never talked to anybody that believed in Bigfoot. I've watched shows on TV, and, you know, you always see that one image of Bigfoot on the beach they show, and, you know, I just never dreamed that anything like that.
The infamous Patty, yes.
Yeah. You know, so that's what, in my mind, I'm thinking, there's no chance in that, you know. But I absolutely believe, because I was within 15 feet of this thing. I mean, it was just right off the shoulder of the road, and there was 2 of them, as a matter of fact. When I seen my first encounter, there was 2. One big one and one little one standing together.
Well, start from the beginning. We want to hear exactly what time of the night it was, or day, or just start from the beginning.
It was in January of 2016, and me and a friend of mine, his name's Kevin, we had been deer hunting across from his parents' house off of Highway 13. There's a hunting club. The Little New River runs through it. There's a lot of land there, a lot of caves, a lot of bluffs. There's, old Indian sites that we dig airheads in under these bluffs and caves. So I was familiar with the land, but it was after dark. I would say time-wise, it was probably 9 o'clock, and we was coming out of the woods, and we come over a hill, went down through a holler where there's a creek running. It's kind of backed up like a slough there, and I had a spotlight with me. I was shining it out the window of the truck, just looking. We hadn't seen anything all day, so I'm just looking on the side of the road, shining this light, and we come up on, there's about 3 or 4 small deer, small goats, and they're feeding and down by the water's edge. We rode on past them, got to the top of the next hill, and there they was, standing right on the side of the road, still in sight of those young deer at the foot of the hill. It looked to me like they were stalking those deer.
Wow, they probably were.
That's the feeling I got from them. And when I shined them with the light went by them first, and the first thing I seen was these huge, glowing gold eyes. They was bigger than a $50. Each eye they was huge. And I asked Kevin, I said, "Did you see that? What was that?" And he said, "I don't know. What was that?" So I said, "Back up." He backed up. I grabbed another flashlight. So I had 2 of them. I had a headlamp on that shines really bright, and then I had this spotlight. And I'm shining it out the window. When we back up, they're still standing there. One is at least 7 foot tall, and it's just long, dreadlocks, dirty, muddy hair, and its arms was swinging down below its knees. Its arms was so long, and that's the first thing I noticed, how long its arms was, and it was huge in just its physical form. Its shoulders and chest was extremely muscled up, broad, and I'm sitting there trying to calculate what is it, and the small one turned its head, and where the light hit, I seen its eyes when it turned towards us. So there was 2, and I said, "Kevin, there's 2." And I thought it might have been kneeled down, maybe using the bathroom, popping a squat, or it was kneeled down. But once I focused on it, I could see it was just a smaller version of the big one. And
wow.
When I really focused the light in on them good again, the big one raised its hand just like a human would over its face to shield the light. Like it was hurting its eyes. It actually raised its hands and shielded the light in front of its face. And it scared me to death. I told Kevin, I told him, I said, "Go down the road, turn around, Kevin, come back." Because I still had my hunting rifle in the truck. I had a high-powered hunting rifle with me. I said, "Kevin, I'm going to get a shot on this thing. Turn around and come back." And when we turned around and come back, they were still in the same spot. But when I hit them with the light this time, they took off. And when they broke and run, they didn't dodge anything in front of them. There was pine trees that was as tall as it was. They were at least 6, 7 foot tall pine trees, planted, set up pine trees. They went over the top of these pine trees like a lawnmower through sagegrass. I mean, they just mowed over the top of them. And you could hear the awfulest crashing and just stuff breaking as they went through the woods. And I told Kevin, I said, "Roll your window up and let's get out of here." I was scared to death.
How was Kevin?
He never said much, man. He looked at me and he said, "What in the world was that, man?" I said, "That's Bigfoot." I said, because there's a friend of ours that lives close right there off of Highway 13 where we was. He lives in Dogtown, and he had an encounter like a year and a half prior to this, and he told me about it first. He's the first person that I'd actually spoke with that had seen one, and of course I didn't believe him. Well, as soon as I seen them and they took off and run, I couldn't get my phone out fast enough, and I called him. His name is Stephen Dobbins. I said, Stephen, you're not going to believe this. And before I could even tell him, he said, you seen one, didn't you? I said, I seen two. And he said, no kidding. I said, I promise you, man. And I told him what had happened, and he was literally crying on the telephone. He was so excited and elated that somebody had actually seen one besides him, because he felt like I do now when I tell my story. You know, so when I could actually relate to what he was telling me, he was so happy, you know, and I apologized to him. I said, man, I'm sorry that I didn't believe you and that I didn't take you seriously. I said, but I totally do now, and, you know, what are we going to do now? You know, what's our next step? Because I wanted to trap one. I wanted to get hard evidence. I wanted to kill one. Whatever we had to do to actually put your hands on one, that's what I wanted to do.
Right. And are you still? Is that still your mindset, or do you think differently now?
Well, I still really feel the same way. I would love to. I would love to be able to prove without 100% shadow of a doubt that they exist, and, you know, put all the skeptics to rest and be able to say, here it is. You know, call National Geographic, call, you know, every newspaper you can, which, you know, our government probably would stop all of that before they ever got on the air, because they don't want the people to know the truth, because it'd send people into a sheer panic. I mean, it absolutely would. If they know that there was something this size living in their neighborhoods or crossing the streets close to their house, I mean, you can only imagine the chaos it would be.
It's not only tourism, but then, you know, there would be those that had to set up sanctuaries, you know, habitat. It'd be another Snowy Owl deal, but even on a grander scale.
Right.
It would be,
I believe, and me and Stephen both believe, that the intelligence level of these guys are maybe even above ours. That's why can't nobody trap one or catch one, you know, out in the woods, because they're so extremely smart and recluse that they're nocturnal, and they're moving at night, and they can go through the woods if they wanted to silent. You would never hear them or see them.
That's right.
But that's the logic I have on it. But thinking back, if you do research on Native Americans and Native American history and cave drawings and paintings, they are cave drawings that date back 7,000 years in caves that have pictures of Bigfoot on the wall. Sketches of Bigfoot right there that date back 7,000 years. And the Indians believe that they're shapeshifters. And that may be the reason why you never see them, but because they're shifting in from one animal to another. That's what the Native Americans believe. Now I don't know if I would go that far, but if you think about it, it could be possible. Why else would they have drawings?
It could be.
Date back 7,000 years.
It could be, but there has been injuries where people have collected blood. And I guess a shapeshifter would have blood, would have hair, would leave tracks. You know, I don't really know that much about.
It could be in the form of another creature, I tell you what, Stephen he'd done a lot more groundwork, put in a lot more footwork than I had because he got started earlier, and he lives right there in the area where these things seem to be just have great numbers. And my house is probably 25 miles away from there. So, I'm not there every day. He is. He lives right in the middle of this place. So he's in the woods every day looking for evidence. He's, putting up trail cameras. He has found what appears to be a nest, like where they would have, like a shelter, and collected a half of a gallon Ziploc bag of hair and sent it to the University of Alabama to have it DNA tested. The results come back with documented paperwork from the University of Alabama, and it said that the sample that we sent them did not match any registered DNA on file that they had, and that the test was inconclusive, that they didn't know what it was. And he still has that hair in his freezer today.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's convincing right there.
I know.
Because I would think that they would have every kind of hair that is possibly out there.
Absolutely. And I mean, we didn't send them some little microscopic sample. We sent them, a gallon Ziploc bag full of the stuff. So I know that there was good DNA on some of it, and it didn't match anything they had. They didn't know what it was.
Well, can you tell us about Stephen's experience? Would he mind if you told us what happened to him?
Stephen was, he was in the woods. He was deer hunting, and he was on a four-wheeler, and he come across the top of a hill. He was in a cutover. His sighting was in the daytime. And when he topped the hill, he seen something big on the going halfway up the hill, right on the next ridge. So he got his gun off his shoulder and looked through the scope and seen what he thought was a bear at first, because they had put bears out in the area years ago. For what reason, I don't know. If they're sugar bears or if they were black bears. I've never seen a bear here. Never seen evidence of a bear here. So hopefully, I don't know if any of them survived or not, but that's what he believed it was. Well, he got off his four-wheeler and started making his way closer to it. And he said when he got on top of the hill enough to where he could really see it without the scope, he said it was walking on two legs, and it totally scared him to death, just like it did me. He said I could have easily, got a shot with my rifle. He said I didn't think anything about anything but getting away from it. Backtracking and getting away from it now. And so that was his experience, and that was right behind his house. He lives probably 4 miles off of Highway 13 in an area that's called Airplane Holler. It's on Dogtown Road. There's been a lot of sightings in that area, and a lot of sightings where I've seen the first two that I've seen. I've actually seen 3. I've seen 2 the first time together, and I guess it was 4 to 5 months later, so maybe in May of 2016, there's a drag strip right off of Highway 13 that everybody goes to. It's a big drag strip, and it was maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. We'd been to the drag strip, and I left, went down and hung out with Stephen at his house because he lives on the same road. Turning around, coming out of there, headed back home, I had to turn and go down Highway 13 to get back on I-22, the interstate. Well, as soon as I turned out on Highway 13, I hadn't got up to speed yet. I was maybe 35 to 40 mile an hour, and one come running across the road in front of us. And I had my girlfriend at the time, her name was Kayla, she was with me. And she looked at me, and she said, "What was that?" And I looked at her, and I said, "That was Bigfoot. That's one of them I've been telling you about that you wouldn't believe me." And she said, "Oh, my God." She said, "You was serious about that?" I said, "Yes, I was serious. The one that come across the road in front of us that night, it wasn't on 2 feet. It was stretched out, man. It was digging when it come across the highway. It come across that road so fast that it was actually like just stretched out like some huge cat or something. You know, like it was using all 4 limbs to just get across the highway as fast as it could. But it was huge.
Wow.
I mean, there's no mistaking what it was. You've seen it clear as day. And she never questioned me about the sightings after that. She didn't want to go back over there, period.
I have to ask you, you say you fish near there. Does it ever occur to you that they can easily come over where you're at? I mean, their range is,
oh, yeah.
You know.
There's no doubt that they could. I just believe, I know Stephen's sighting was during the day, but I don't think, the first 2, when I seen the first 2, we literally stopped right beside them. I'm looking them dead in the eye and within 15, 20 feet from them, and they wasn't scared at all. They was not, you know, in a hurry to leave or scared of me whatsoever. So I didn't get any feeling that they was aggressive. You know, like that I had to worry that they was going to harm me or anything like that. So maybe that's the reason why that it don't bother me that, you know, during the day and I'm over there. Because I went back this year and with a friend to help him get a couple deer that he killed at the same spot where I seen these. I went back over there to help him drag these deer out of the woods, and I wasn't afraid then. You know, it was during the day, and maybe that's what it was. But it didn't even cross my mind. I told him, I said, "Man, right here," I mean, literally like couple, 100 yards down the road where I seen Bigfoot that night, and he was like, "Okay, man, all right, whatever." And I said, "I'm serious. I'm just telling you," because he's been there every day deer hunting. I said, "Man, just keep your eyes open for him." That I told him that they may be in trees because Stephen's got pictures on trail camera to where you can pretty much see. It's like you can't zoom in enough on the picture on the camera. You can zoom in enough to see a figure in the top of a tree, but you can't zoom in enough to actually see features on it. You can see what it looks like him crouched down its arms and its head, but they may be moving from treetop to treetop. As long as this thing's arms was and as muscled up as its shoulders and chest was, there's no doubt in my mind that it could climb, or maybe even be able to move through trees like a monkey.
It's a strong possibility. Do you know where Sylacauga is?
Sylacauga? Yeah.
Yes.
It's south of you.
Yes, it's south of you. Well, it's below Birmingham.
Right.
It's probably dead center in Alabama. I would probably have to say that's where it's located. But we went researching there several times on a deer lease near Sylacauga. And we had an incident one day where I noticed a dark place. It could have just been a shadow. It was during the day, and this was all new growth pine. We were in what they call greenfield. And we were camped out in the greenfield. Well, I noticed that there was a dark shadow next to one of the little pine trees. Well, then when I looked again, it wasn't there. And I said, Well, then I saw something moving through on the other side of us. It had moved, but the one that I saw moving was was lighter colored than the one I had seen. It was more of a gray and brown, and it was moving just going from one tree to another like it was watching us. And so I set up my camera and I filmed. I didn't really get anything. I don't think. I've tried looking at it and I can't really tell anything. But it was interesting to me because they weren't afraid.
No.
Down here in East Texas, they're very shy. And even though I've had daytime sightings here in Texas, it's just extremely rare to have a sighting at all. They're reclusive. They're extremely shy. But it seemed like in Alabama, it's not that. I still think that they have a fear, but I think that their curiosity is so much more.
Mm-hmm.
And that they'll actually expose, just like the ones that were standing on the side of the road. From my experience, I would say that's impossible because they should have already left.
Right.
And there had to have been a reason why they stayed there like they did.
Right.
I don't know if maybe they were that close to catching those deer or they were focused on that and not worried about, because probably they've encountered people before stopping and looking at them. But then when you came back, when you came back, they probably sensed that you were fixing to shoot them.
Right.
The first time, they didn't think you were going to, they probably sensed that you were like going, oh my God, what the heck is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I thought maybe they was wanting to cross the road is the feeling I got from them, that they that their path that they needed to take was across that gravel road where we was at, and parked in the middle of it. Maybe that's why they didn't turn and run and stood there as long as they did because, like I said, there's so many caves and bluffs, it is so steep and rugged terrain next to that little new river. I think personally that they're living around these bluffs and caves, using them for winter shelters or there's plenty of food source there. There's plenty of fish down there in the rivers. There's plenty of deer. They're everywhere. There's plenty of squirrels, coons, rabbits. The woods are full of wildlife. But maybe they was needing to cross the road, and it had this young one with it, it appeared to me, because it was much, much smaller. It was probably 3 foot tall, maybe 100 pounds. And the big one was at least 7 foot and probably 600 or more pounds. So I don't know if it was just a young one or an adolescent or if one, I don't know how you would tell gender as far as male or female. Maybe it was a mother and her child, or I don't know, but one was definitely bigger, a lot bigger than the other one.
Wow, that is just amazing. It's just an incredible story. And I'm so glad that you shared that with us because that, to me, I totally believe you because it's just the part that I just can't believe is that you got to drive back and see them again. I thought, man, but I had some friends that saw one in Mississippi and it stood there at the edge of their camp for 10, 15 minutes, or I don't even know how long it was, and let them look at it. And I was like, that's just not real. I don't know anybody who ever gets an opportunity like that, but you were blessed. You got to really get a chance to look at them.
I truly was.
Wow.
And then to see another one just 3 to 4 months later, and have somebody with me in the car again that confirmed what I thought I seen. They seen the same thing, So that made me feel a lot better. I'd have been alone both times and told somebody, I absolutely know that nobody would ever believe me. But because I had...
Well, I would. I was on the phone the first time I saw one, so I had someone on the phone with me. I was just talking on the phone, and I shined my spotlight across the street from where I lived, and there it stood. I mean, just like that. And
wow.
I was like, oh my God. You know, that's all I could say was, oh my God, over and over and over, you know, and they kept saying, what? You know, and I said, I'm looking at a Bigfoot. Oh my God. Of course, I saw him for all of 5 seconds. He ducked behind a yopon bush, and I never saw him again, you know, but I didn't get to see him even maybe that long. It was just that quick. So I memorized what I saw, because I'm going to tell you, when you see something like that, it's like it puts an impression on your brain. You remember things you can't even believe that you remember that, because you saw it for just a flat second. If you see a person on the street and they pass you as you're walking one way and they're walking another, you can't remember that much about that person. They were wearing a hat, and maybe they were wearing denim jacket. Were they wearing a T-shirt or a regular shirt? Did they have long hair? You know, or anything. You can't remember that, but when you see that Sasquatch for the very first time, it's just like burned into your mind. There's just no way that you can forget anything about what you saw. Can you tell me anything about the facial features? Do you remember seeing them? Were they monkey-like or human-like, or?
It was it was human-like. Its head was much bigger, though. It had its like brow line was real protruding, you know, like thick.
Pronounced,
and it had a what, you know, I would say like cone-shaped head, but it didn't come to no point or anything. But it had a real slope back, I'd say 5-6 inches, you know, high forehead. But then its head was it was huge, and it was just solid black. You know, it's where its eyes and mouth were. It was much darker than the rest of its hair or fur. But I'm telling you, its eyes was so big and glowing so bright that I mean, I was looking dead in the face. I mean, because when you're in the woods as much as I have been my whole life, you've seen every creature they are. I mean, I've coon hunted at night. You know, you deer hunt during the day. I've hunted every animal, rabbits, squirrels. So I've seen all these animals with spotlights shined on them. You know what different ones' eyes look like, because they all don't glow the same at night when you hit them with a light.
Right.
Like big cats, you know, mountain lions, panthers, bobcats. When you shine lights on them at night with a high, you know, flashlight, a spotlight. I had a Max 1 million spotlight. It puts out as much light as 1 million candle lights, you know, at one time, the beam is. So it's extremely bright. You know what you know, things' eyes look like, and the Bigfoot's eyes glowed like big cat's eyes do at night. It was like
or even a coon.
Or
coons have those glowing eyes too.
Yep.
Coons do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. But they was big as $half. I mean, so and the two eyes was at least 4 inches apart. You know, there was a pretty wide space in between each eye. I mean, so you know just by that feature alone that what you're looking at is extremely big. To have eyeballs that big and that spaced out, you know. But I mean, like I said, there wasn't hid behind no trees. There wasn't no obstruction in between me and them. So there wasn't nothing obstructing my view. So it was just standing in broad sight, just dead out in the open. I still can't sleep.
I know. Yes, I felt that way. for the longest time. And then I kind of wondered, did I really see that? And then I had a second sighting. And my first sighting was Labor Day weekend in 2001, I think. 2001, 2002, and it was like the following March, I had another sighting but this one was during the day. And so that convinced me right there. I had seen the first one because the second one was a different one, but it was definitely one of them. And, but, I still will have moments where I go, maybe I am crazy. But no, I'm not. I know what I know.
Look like compared to what I'm telling you, did the one you seen during the day, was his hair long, matted up, dreadlock looking, or
no? Both of these guys were the color of straw, like pine straw, kind of a reddish. They both had seemed like short hair on them. The first one was very, very tall. We measured. I noticed that the top of his head was on a knot of the tree. That's what I noticed when I saw him. That knot in the tree, we measured it, was 11 foot. And I know that seems impossible, but he was tall and lanky. Like he didn't seem. But when you're looking, at a distance, it's hard to see how tall something is. It really is, because like here where I live, we live on a hill, and the deer look real little until they come up close to the house, and you go, man, that's a big deer.
Yeah, right.
And you think they're real little when they're off in the distance. So it's kind of the same thing, and I didn't think he was that big. But then when we went back the next day and looked, those yopons were 6.5 feet tall, and he was above that. So I was like, wow, he was big. And we had to take a pole and hold a hat up from the distance till it got to that knot, and we measured, and it was 11 foot. And I still have a hard time believing he was that tall. I still have a hard time believing he was that tall. But anyway, he was like a basketball player, and it seemed like he had short hair. Short and just smooth. And then the second one was only about 6 foot tall, and he was kind of pudgy. He had a little old pot belly on him, but it was the same color hair. And he was pudgy. He was more stocky, and he didn't have the long hair. But the very last one that I saw, he was completely different. He had sloped shoulders. He was built more like a big ape. He had long hair. He had a kind of like an Aborigines face. He was silver and gray and brown. I kind of think he might have been old. And but his face was dark. His hands were dark. And he was his hair was so thick that I couldn't really even make out muscle tone like I could on the other two. But he was, he was definitely different. He had the longer arms, and it was just, and he also had the sagittal crest, whereas the other two didn't. They were round-headed, just like us. It was just strange. It's two different areas, not too far apart, 2 counties apart, but still they were different.
Was the sighting that you had on the short-haired ones during the summer months, I reckon it was a summer coat they had, what you were seeing?
I don't know. Well,
the one I
first
seen
one was
in January, and it was cold. So maybe that's, it was a winter coat of hair that it had on. Maybe that's why the hair was longer, on the one that I seen versus.
That could very well be, because the long-haired one, I saw it in December. And the 2 short-haired ones, the second short-haired one was in March, and the first one was in September.
Yeah, I bet you that's what it is. That it was they had shed that hair, and that was their summer coat.
You know what? I never thought about that. That is very interesting. I never thought about that because it gets hot here in East Texas.
Oh, yeah,
hot.
Here too. Humid.
I mean, it's like humid. Yes. And it's just, I mean, you can't take off enough clothes to get cool down here in the summer. And I imagined I always wondered how they stayed cool. Because I would, if I was Bigfoot, I would stay submerged in some lake somewhere, just during the day to stay hid out. Just, how this stuff grows, around the edge of the lake and stuff, just get up under one of them trees and nobody'd ever see them. Just have your head poking out. That's what I thought anyway.
If you look at long-haired dogs, they get a winter coat and a summer coat.
Mm-hmm. They sure do.
And I'm just betting that that's what happened there.
Yeah. That makes sense because they're outside, so they're subject to the elements, and their body is going to acclimate.
But it's adapted.
Yes.
It's adapted to the environment and the months, winter versus summer, and I totally believe that's what happened as far as that goes. And that may be where all that loose hair that Stephen collected out of, that shelter was from.
Yeah.
From one of them shedding. And the shelters that they're building around here, there's so much evidence in them woods. I mean, I literally had not went up there to put my hands on it. Stephen sends me pictures of it all the time. I hadn't went up there because in my mind, I know what I've seen, but I feel like if I get so close to where I can physically be able to see the truth, that then I'm going to be freaked out even more about it. These shelters that they're making is like a big fallen tree, and then they're taking other smaller trees, and you can see where they're just breaking them off and sticking them sideways and like braiding them, like weaving them in so there's like they're framing it out basically. They're taking smaller trees and woven them through this bigger one to make like this domed shelter, and then they're stuffing it with vines and heavy vegetation, and we got plenty of pictures of it. These things are breaking like 5-inch in diameter, 5 to 6 inch in diameter pine trees, 7, 8 foot off the ground, just snapping them in half. And there's claw marks, on some of these bigger trees that's probably 11 or 12 foot tall, like the ones you're talking about. Huge claw marks that just right into these trees. And
wow.
I mean, what is doing that? What other creature in the woods is intelligent enough to weave, branches into a dead fallen tree, per se, to make it have like walls on it, and that's where he collected that hair sample, was out of the middle of one of these places.
Wow.
It's totally not natural. I mean, as soon as you see it, you know that it's not something natural occurring in the woods, or, it's just, there's just no way. And then you look at these claw marks on these trees and you think, well, what lives here? You're thinking, well, of course there's bobcats, and they get, pretty good size here. But then there's panthers here. The game warden will tell you that there's not, but there definitely is, because you can see pictures on people's trail cameras of them here in the woods. And so you think, well, possibly it was a mountain lion, that made these claw marks.
Mm-hmm.
But there's none going from the base of the tree up to the height that, 10 or 11 foot tall. Just all of a sudden, up at, between 9 and 12 foot, you've got these huge dug-in claw marks down the tree. Like, like it was just reached up and stretching and sharpening its claws like cats do on scratching posts or something,
Yes.
I don't know what to make of it because I'm not an expert by any means on them. But I know that if I was, I could definitely find the evidence that I was looking for right there.
Yeah. Well, you know, there has been a lot of pictures out there, and I have seen it myself, the woven walls. And what looked like a nest area nearby. I've also seen the dome things that you're talking about, and that was in an area where it was a hot area. Every time we went there, we got something, you know, and this area where the domed structures was not too far from where I had the 2 sightings. And so, you know, when I saw these domed structures, I was like, you know, I was pretty new to the woods in the area, and I knew my woods, but I was in an area that was not exactly my normal, but I was searching, and I saw these things, and I didn't know if that was natural or not, but it looked like something could get up inside of it. You could get inside of them, and
absolutely.
It looked just like, this looked like a bunch of branches, brush, and all this, but it was dome shaped, and there was like 2 or 3 of them there. And I'm thinking, you know, I just thought it was a dead bush, like a big bush that had died, and yeah, that's what I thought at first till I went over there and looked at it, but it had branches from different trees.
Yep,
interwoven in it.
This one,
and I'm thinking, that's not normal. That's not normal. Of course, back then I didn't even carry a camera with me, duh. But, you know, I should have got pictures of that because that's just not something that you normally run across.
No.
Yeah.
Have you ever
amazing.
seen actual footprints of one in the woods?
No. One time I found a partial footprint, and I went back to go get casting material. When I come back, and I kid you not, something had taken a stick and scribbled all in it.
Wow.
I'm not kidding. And one time I found a fish that had perfect teeth marks, had bitten the gut out of it. And, I mean, it was perfect teeth marks, but big. And but I fish up, I looked at it, and I would have had to carry that fish about 2 miles back to where I started. But I felt like something was watching me big time. And I said, I put the fish back down. I felt like I might not make it out of the woods with that fish.
Wow.
And I left it. Yeah, I did not feel comfortable. It was during the day, but I did not feel comfortable at all. I'd found that fish. But
I hope that Stephen wouldn't mind me telling, you know, all the things that he's discovered and found and been kind enough to show me, because he's probably listening. I hope he is. I told him what's going to be on there. He may be listening at home, and you may talk with him in the future one day.
I would love to have him on.
I hope that he wouldn't mind that I'm telling part of his story, but he has pictures of footprints. I mean, perfect impressions of footprints, like we're running an ant bed, you know, and left a perfect footprint. And he's got several different pictures of, and it's so close to his house where this is happening. And I've been to his house a million times. And one night he told me, he called me up there. He said, "You got to come up here, man. You're not going to believe this." And I thought, what? He's like, "Just come on. I'm not even going to tell you to get here." When I got up there, he said, "We're going to go right down the road to one of his neighbor's house." He said, "They've got these night owl surveillance cameras, you know, around their properties, on the house and everything." And he said, part of the camera features is they've got a thermal imaging, you know, selection that you can do on the night vision. And he said, "Man, you're not going to believe it. Not going to believe it, what they captured on these cameras." I said, "All right." So we went over there, and when they showed me the tape of what they had, it's right out their back window of their bedroom. There's a camera right on the corner of the house. And right in the edge of the yard, it's probably 30 yards from their bedroom window, is where the tree line starts. And they live there in Airplane Holler on Dogtown Road. And in this tree, you know, trees, you can see the trees. You can't see tree limbs or leaves or anything like that. But, I mean, you can see the tree. They're not glowing or anything in the thermal imaging, but you can see them. In the top of this tree, there's like 5 of these. I don't know what it was. They're not big like no 600-pound thing like I seen, but maybe like the smaller one. Because whatever it was in this tree looked to be, you know, between 50 and 75, maybe 100 pounds each. And you know, there's 2 here and 1 below and 2 over here. And I mean, they're red and orange. I mean, there's definitely heat signature coming from these things, and they're in the top of this tree.
Wow.
I don't know what it is. I don't know.
Are they moving, or are they just staying still? Are they moving, or?
They're staying still. They're staying still. They took a screenshot, you know, of that image, and we tried to be able to, you know, diagnose it further by doing that, you know, zoom in or trying to mess with the color and the contrast and the lighting, and you can't tell any features or anything like that, but I mean, it looks like they're like crouched down, you know, like in a sitting position, like they're perched, you know, in the tree, like they're hanging on to the tree.
Oh my gosh!
I'm telling you, if y'all ever want to, if the next expedition y'all go on, plan to come to Highway 13 between Eldridge and Natural Bridge.
I so wish we had made this show 90 minutes because, oh my goodness, this is amazing.
Y'all can definitely come and see some things here. I promise. There's plenty of evidence here.
Well, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Can you believe our time is nearly up? I think we have like maybe 3 or 4 minutes left, maybe 2 minutes. 2 minutes left.
We should have done 90. I wasn't sure, so.
Oh, yeah. We just have to have you back, and you're going to have Steve with you.
Yeah.
We're going to have both of you guys on.
Yeah. He's got, you know, I could send you all those photographs right to the show. I mean, I could send them tonight. I have them on my phone. You know, I could send them.
You better make sure it's okay with Steve first, but I would love to see them.
I would definitely talk to him, but I know he wouldn't mind because he's ready to go at any time. If you called him right now tonight and said, hey, I'm going to be up there in 30 minutes, Stephen. You want to go out in the woods and look for these things? He's going to say absolutely. So
yes, absolutely. That's the way I feel about it, too. Yes. Well, you've been an excellent guest. I know you were a little, kind of wondering how you were going to do, but I want to tell you what, you were wonderful. And I really, really enjoyed this interview. It was a great interview, great. And
thanks for having me.
You bet. It was our pleasure, for sure. And see, it wasn't so bad, was it?
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't bad at all. It was totally painless.
Yes. So I tell you what, you need to get with Stephen, see if he wants to come on, and we're going to have you guys back before our summer break. For sure. Okay. We're going to have you two back on. That would just be great. I'm gonna make sure I keep you on top of this, okay?
Yeah,
and be careful out there.
I'm sure I can definitely arrange that. And maybe the next show, we can have all those photographs, posted on the website so the viewers can, see the evidence that we have collected here and documented.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, that is just fantastic. That would be wonderful. That would. Well, we better call it a show before they shut us off. And thank you again, Scott, for coming on. You were awesome, and I've really enjoyed your stories very much. Our listeners are going to love you. I'm going to tell you right now, they're going to love you. So we'll have y'all back soon. Everyone, next week we have Chuck Sutherland, the one that we were not able to talk to last week. He's going to be on this next weekend. So y'all join us, same time, 8:30 Central Time. And thanks for listening to Blog Talk Radio. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.